Okay. You want to move over there? Yeah, okay. We don't have a lead space. So the second and last panel is on what can the EU do to stop the war. And we have four panelists, myself. I will start, and then we will have also Yael Lerer, Franco-Israeli, and members of parliament. I will present each one when we have the floor. So yes, so I'm a Franco-Israeli. I'm a political scientist from the University of Strasbourg. I have to present myself. And I'm also one of the coordination team of this petition of Israeli citizens calling for true international pressure on Israel for an immediate ceasefire to stop the war. We Israeli citizens refuse to participate in the Israeli public relations campaign to improve its image and to save its reputation, to present Israel to the world as a liberal, progressive, democratic, gay-friendly democracy, to divert the attention from its crimes. We refuse to defend it from criticism, to protect it from accountability and from responsibility for what it is doing. We refuse to be part of the Israeli propaganda machine. We refuse to maintain this illusion that some change will come from within. It will not come from within. We need effective pressure from outside. Israel will not stop without your help. The level of indoctrination in Israeli society, in Israeli schools and universities is way too high. The trauma and hate is too strong. The process of dehumanization of the Palestinians is well advanced. The genocidal incitement is now normalized, and the opposition to the genocide is criminalized. The slogan, "Death to Arabs," is now state policy. The only way to stop this war is effective pressure on Israel. We need sanctions against the state and its institutions. We need to stop any cooperation with the state of Israel and its institutions, because cooperation today is complicity. Cooperation today sends the wrong message to Israel of total impunity. We, citizens of Israel, express our full support to the International Court of Justice, and we demand the implementation of its advisory opinion of 19 July 2024, and a full investigation on the plausible genocide still ongoing in Gaza. We Israeli citizens fully support the International Criminal Court in The Hague, and we wait like many others to the issue of the warrants, the arrest warrants for the war criminals, our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. We do not yet see these warrants. We Israeli citizens call for the immediate suspension of the association agreement between the European Union and the State of Israel based on Article 2. Article 2 that demands that the agreement is based on respect for human rights and democracy. We Israeli citizens demand arms embargo stop arming Israel. We refuse to accept the denial of genocide. We need to stop complicity. We need to stop impunity. And we need to move from that towards accountability and responsibility for what is done in our name. Friends, we are in very dark times, times of genocide and denial of genocide, times of war crimes and crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing and the denial of ethnic cleansing. In such times, silence is acceptance. In Hebrew, we say, shtika kehaskama. Silence is acceptance. As citizens of this state, the state intimidates us. The state threatens us to silence, to keep silent, to continue as it was, business as usual. But we will not be silenced. We will continue to speak up against war crimes. We will never accept the unaccepted. Thank you. I now give the floor to Yael Lerer, who is Franco-Israeli, as myself, who is a publisher and translator, well known also for Andalus publishing press, which the way I also was exposed to excellent literature from Arabic translated to Hebrew, but among other activities. Yael, please.
So first, it's true that I had this publishing house that translated Arabic literature into Hebrew, but basically I'm an activist. And I'm an activist. I started very, very early, like 40 years ago. And one could never imagine 40 years ago, knowing everything, knowing what happened in 48, knowing what happened since 67, nobody could imagined what happened now. Like the reality. The fact that every morning we wake up in the morning, myself, I speak Arabic, so I can see the Arabic media. I see every morning how many people were killed in the night. And it's like 50 people and 100 people and kids that going through into parts, and nobody care anymore. I used to live in Israel most of my life. At some point, I moved to France. I became French. I became European. I've been in Israel in July. I felt that I cannot breathe. I just cannot breathe. Like all what everybody else just said here about the atmosphere now in Israel, which is really, you cannot breathe. But then I came back to France and I said, what I'm doing here? How come that life are so normal and so nice when not that far from us, people are being slaughtered? There is such and we get used to it. We just get used to it. Like people are dying in front of the cameras, in live streaming, like this conference, and life is going on. Like, and then, unfortunately, I'm radical left. I'm anti-colonial, but I don't think that the cause against genocide or against mass killing it's a cause of the left, of the radical left. I wanted to see here people from the center, people from the decent right wing. I mean, being against killing people, it's just humanistic. It's not a leftist cause. So, and I have the feeling, like at least in France, that it's become like a cause of some radical left people, when all the other people, they just don't care anymore. And what is also very strong is the fact that it's not only that we see everything in live streaming, it's also the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers that film it. the Israeli soldiers that show us what they can do. We cannot even say, no, it's propaganda. The victims, the Palestinians, they tell stories. No, the Israeli soldiers, they show us that they kill, that they erase, that we destroy completely. And the last, especially the last month in Gaza, it's the worst month since the 7th of October 2023. So we are here really, we want to shout, this thing have to stop for all reasons. I mean, for the Israelis, for the Palestinians, for the future together, because there is something very important. The people that are here, we are here around, I don't know, 30 Israelis. We live in Europe. Some of us came from France, from Belgium, from Holland, from Spain today. But some Israelis that we see in the media, in the European media, they speak French, they speak English. We think, okay, no problem. Colonial situation, they can go back to their countries. But this is not the case. Like in Israel now, between the river and the sea, in Israel, Palestine, we have 15 million people. Half of them are Israeli Jews, half of them are Palestinians, some of them Palestinian of Israel, some of them in Gaza, some of them in West Bank, some of them in Jerusalem. And most of these people, they don't have anywhere to go. And it's very simple. Neither they live together, they can continue to live together, or they will all die together. And what's going on now in Israel, it's a kind of suicidal actions of the Israeli government. They don't care anymore for many reasons. It's personal reasons of Netanyahu. It's a kind of post-traumatic thing after October 7th for many reasons. But they just don't care. They suicide. And I'm like Hana. When I see the Israeli soldiers, I also care. I say, for what the fuck? Why? They are dying. What they are sacrificing themselves. When I see and the pain and the people, they just continue and they continue. And you see, it's a really a crazy attitude that you see there. And the fact of not doing anything is to support it. So of course, when we send arms to Israel, but also when we continue this normality with Israel, like even going to the Knesset, I wouldn't go to the Knesset now, for example. I think that one should really have a very, very severe measures against the cooperation in Israel. It is very good that when you get back from the Knesset with such messages, it's good things that you spoke with these people. But I'm speaking in general. The petition that we did, we wrote it like a month ago in a sense of urgent. It's really emergency. And then, a month happened. How many more people were killed? How many more kids stayed with no parents, lost their legs, lost their arms? And it's like every day is like this. And I want to speak a little bit about the petition. Now we have already 3,700 Israelis. It's a very small minority in Israel. And this is why we ask for international intervention and pressure, because we wrote in this petition, but we don't hope anymore that we can change something from inside. And what is interesting about the petition, that the people that organize it from the beginning, it's us, the people that live abroad, and more people that live in Israel sign on this petition, even though that there is already legislations, not actual legislation, but intentions of legislations to criminalize people that call for sanctions. Like the Minister of Justice, he asked for the legal advisor to the government. He asked her to make a legislation that punished by 10 years of prison people that call for sanction, and double the punishment for 20 years if it happens in the time of war. And still, it was in the newspapers in Israel. And still, people didn't took back their signatures. We wrote to everybody, don't worry. We don't think that this legislation happened. Even if it's happened, it's apply only after that. But still, it's make fun. But people kept their signatures on this petition. What is just I will say another more sentence. What is also important, that about 500 of the people that signed this petition live in Europe. They are also European. I'm, like I said, I'm an activist, but I'm also activist as a French person. I became French. I was not born French or European, but I am responsible also as French, and I have to do things. So when we are here, we speak, it's our Israeliness, but it's also our Europeanness. Like we are responsible also of the fact that Europe cooperate with Israel and that things are like, okay, and this has to stop. And we don't know how to do it because also we were in the French parliament, it was the same, very few members of the parliament. We don't manage to, we feel that we have like walls in front of the media. We cannot get back into the media, but this is important. And as I said, 3,700 people, the very, very small minority. And this is why we ask for international interventions, but it's a lot of people. And what is also very interesting in this petition is the fact that it's not only the people like most of us here, that we are like a radical left and we speak about what happened before and what happened after and many years of the occupation. There are many people there that for years were against sanctions, that for years were against international interventions. And at this point, they just understand we have to stop it. Because we didn't speak about it, but there is also now many Israelis, they understand that the war is for nothing. Some of them they don't dare to sign, and they understand that there is a program of settlements in Gaza. There is a program of complete ethnic cleansing on Gaza, which till now was not expressed officially, but now people understand it more. So we came here today just to tell you, we cry, we ask you to help us to stop this nightmare.
Thank you, Yael. And the next speaker is a member of European Parliament, Willy Søvndal, from the Green Group from Denmark. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Normally, when you make a political speech, you either start or finish saying that you see some hope somewhere. This is difficult just now, I must admit. And I've worked with this for years. I have a past as a Danish foreign minister where I was dealing with this item as well. I'm the man behind labeling products from the settlements back in 2013. And therefore, I was never invited by the Netanyahu government, although I was a foreign minister for 2.5 years. But just to say it very clear, we are, I think, all victims of the most right-wing religious extremist government that Israel have ever had. And to criticize that has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I mean, in that case, half of the Israeli population or more are anti-Semites when they protest, when they demonstrate. It's a normal democratic rule that you criticize a government you do not like. For that reason, I'll keep criticizing Netanyahu, who I think is a hindrance for peace and was in all these years working against any attempt to find a solution, to stretch your hand forward and say, should we not find a political agreement about the conflicts? He never wanted that. He wanted an Israel from the river to the sea. And I think what we see now is a systematic attempt to push the Palestinian people away. It's a hard time. It's a hard time for justice, also because the American election leaves a place where we cannot expect anything positive from the present, from the coming American government. Look at who they appointed as ambassador as a special envoy to the Middle East. There is nothing that an American government the next 4 years is going to do. They'll cross their fingers, cross their arms, and give Netanyahu and his regime the full right to do whatever they want. The hope is that Europe will act. And I must say it's not become easier after this last election, where there was a major step to the extreme right in Europe, with political parties of the same opinion as Trump's were strengthened. And I think the conservatives are moving in some of these questions also to cooperation with the extreme right. Nevertheless, we know what we have to do if we shall succeed. We have claimed ceasefire immediately and without conditions. We will continue to do that, like we will continue to claim for human aid to the people, not least in the north of Gaza, who are suffering, who are starving, who are going into wintertime now, and almost no help is allowed to come in. In a bit more than 2 months, UNRWA is forbidden to work in Gaza. That's both food supply, it's also education, it's also health systems that are being laid down. And we urge EU to make a decision to stop the association agreement. That's the hardest strike we can do to the Israel government to stop the association agreement. We must continue pushing for a two-state solution, although it looks very difficult just now, also to keep up a bit of hope. We must condemn the ministers with their hate speech. We must condemn the settler organizations. We must sanction both of these. We must sanction also high-ranging official Israelis who have a responsibility of what is going on. We give our full support to ICJ. It's a very clear judgment they made, and we will call for it to be realized in real life. We should not deliver any arms in the present situation to Israel. We must stop delivering arms which are used to kill innocent people. When all that is said, I hope that in spite of the political situation in Europe, Europe will stand by its responsibility and give some hope of putting so much pressure on the Israeli government that also maybe the public in Israel realizes, the ones who haven't yet, that this is not acceptable, what's going on. No country in this world would be allowed to do what Israel does, had it not been because of the history which makes some countries a bit lame in their ability to criticize. I mean, where else in this world would you just look at what's going on? I cannot imagine any where we not would condemn without any excuses what's going on. So therefore, my friends, this is hard times. We all have to do where we are to do what we can to try to influence the people we meet with. When I was a young man in Denmark, before I went into politics, Israel was for a whole population something we sympathized very much with, also because of the war that had taken place and the 6 million Jews killed. Young people went to Israel in the kibbutz to work there. It's not like that anymore in Denmark. It's not like that anymore in any European country. It is not even like that anymore in US. We saw that by the election just now. So if I was making strategy for Israel government, I would be very concerned losing so much sympathy in the world as is happening now, if you look at a longer future than just the next election. We shall do what we can. It looks difficult now, but sometimes when it has looked very difficult on this earth, we managed to change it. I hope we will do that too here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willy. And our last speaker, member of the European Parliament, Matjaž Nemec, also from the same group, Socialists and Democrats from Slovenia.
Thank you for coming. You are a very important messengers. You could be an important deliverers for the future. I mean, I will start with when Hana ended, and it was that we are from the same side. But it doesn't mean that we are pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. We are pro-humanity. We are pro-peace. We are protector of the international law. We are fighting for what is needed, and the human rights at the moment, globally. And when it comes to the Palestine issue, especially talking about the whole Middle East. I mean, it's kind of difficult to continue after all already has been said. And I will try to somehow to inspire you. I already did. I can see some familiar faces over there because we had a meeting in the afternoon. And in the end of our meeting, I just made my position. What is my motivation? Nobody never called me anti-Semitic because I'm a fighter for the human rights. Because of my personal and the story of my community, of my nation, I can tell those stories and I can fight. I'm in a position to fight for those things that I believe in. Because I'm coming from Slovenia, and it is a small nation of 2 million inhabitants, many times splitting during the history by Manis, especially in the last 120 years, contested by Manis. To make an point, we are an hour from Venice, on the border to Italy. And it is an amazing and beautiful region. There are 2 famous cities. One is Trieste, that used to be the most important port of Austro-Hungarian Empire. For the last 500 years, it used to be a part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, and we were one of many, many nations coming from that empire. And after the First World War, the territory was contested by many, but taken by Italian fascists, by irredentists. And they made an ethnic cleansing among all of those who were Slavs, as my nations, Slovenes, Croats, Greeks, Jews, also many, many nations, because it was a cosmopolitan region. And the first fascism started, and my people were under daily attack for 25 years, till 43, till the fall of the Mussolini regime. After that, after the Second World War, there's been so-called Iron Curtain mentioned by Winston Churchill. And after that, we faced an interesting relation between socialist Yugoslavia and capitalistic Italy. But the people of the region invest all they had in the relationship. And the next year, I mean, after that, Slovenia joined the European Union. We were one of those who were in the front lines when it comes to the human rights for all the time. And the next years, we are all hosting an amazing project, so-called Capital of Culture of Europe together, with Gorizia, Italian city, and Nova Gorizia on Slovenian side. And we will try to explain our story, our common story. It's not a typical story in this continent full of fights during the history. we learned something, how to deal with differences. And this would be my story to deliver with you, how to fight for those things that are worth for the common future. And I'm here in this house for the last 3 years, known as that one who is just a fighter for those things who thinks that it's right. And never, no one told me to be anti-Semitic or to be pro-Palestinian because of my history. I mean, we faced many times as a Slovenian nation the same situation as Palestine, especially in the period of last 80, 60 years. And we faced the same destiny during the Second World War. My ancestor used to be in the same line as Jewish people. We lost 20,000 people during Holocaust, my people, my uncles, my ancestors, and we were treated as the Jewish people during the Holocaust. In that period, during the Second World War, we were just in 1,020,000 and 200,000. So you can imagine what impact had a Holocaust also in my people. So, and it's worth to fight what we live in, and we are taking actions all the time. Not to taking apart, but to fight for all the things that we believe in. I will just try to quickly explain what we did and what should be done as soon as possible. As you well know, the European Union have sanctioned representatives of Hamas on one hand, but also some individual violent settlers. Some countries have stopped or limited its arms exports to Israel, as my country, Slovenia, which is well known among those 5-6 countries fighting for immediate ceasefire, for the human rights and so on. I will not continue with all I have already said. But the problems are countries as Germany or US that are still delivering arms in Israel. There are some proposals to suspend EU-Israel association, that has already said, and it is important to deliver the message, especially for the Netanyahu government. But I mean, there's a lot to be done. The EU must implement, that has already been said, the ICJ advisory opinion fully. That is very clear when it comes to trade with settlement products, and somehow it is our duty, because we know with what purpose was built European Union after the Second World War. But it seems like that we are facing an internal moral conflict. European Union has won in 2012 the Nobel Prize for Peace. And I'm putting on question if it's still on us to hold this award after our position. Because we can see a lot of hypocrisy, because, I mean, the people are just confronting two conflicts when it comes to Ukraine, on the other hand, with those conflicts in the Middle East, and we can see double standard when it comes to the international rule of law. And the most important thing is that this is not just a fight between Israel and Palestine, or the Arabic war against Israel, but it is a fight for the international order, for the international institution and the international rule of law. So Netanyahu, it's not just attacking innocent people and killing innocent people in Palestine or in Lebanon, but he's directly attacking the United Nations. And we know what is the role when it comes to Israeli state, talking about the role of the United Nations in 1948, 1949, and so on. I'm quite sure that you know better than me the history of the Middle East. So, and you will ask me, what is my motivation? I have already mentioned it, that it is a rule of law, the humanity, the international law, but you know how it starts. We know what was the list of those who were in camps in the Second World War. My nation was the 5th or the 7th on the list. So the Jews, LGTB, so the Roms, and the Slavs. So this is how it starts. And you know, this is not just your fight, because you are fighting for what you believe, but this is also my fight. It is incredible how the world is changing. 20 years ago, there's been a big debate in this institution because one of the European countries, after the election, have had an extremely right and populistic government, and we invented the Article 7, and that's allowed to limit some politics when it comes to the member states. It took just 20 years that politics are now mainstream in the European Union. Just 20 years. 20 years. So I cannot imagine what will be the evaluation of the situation in the next 20 years. So this is the fight that we have to fight for together. And it's not to take sides or being Palestinian or being Lebanese or being Israeli, but it's about to be humans and to fight for the international rule of law and to fight for the human rights. And thank you for coming. And it is a strong message. We will try to deliver this message also among our colleagues. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you, Matjaž. And you were the last speaker of this conference for Israeli citizens calling for true international pressure on Israel for an immediate ceasefire. Thank you all for coming tonight to the European Parliament in Brussels, some of you from far away. You're welcome for coffee and drinks at the entrance. Thank you again, Hana, for hosting this event. It's a dark time and a long way, but we are marathon runners. Thank you.
Thank you.